Hello, and thank you for visiting TechSecure. My name is Janice Bailey, and today we are going to discuss one of the first tools that we talked about during our first class, TCPDump. Now, for those of you that remember, TCPDump, as we said, is a packet sniffer. That means it basically sniffs packets. It inspects the traffic that is on the network. It can be used to capture any packets that are you can direct it towards a certain machine to take a look at what is going to and from that machine, or you can actually configure TCPDump to have it sniff everything that it does have access to. So we're going to look at a couple of basic commands with TCPDump. Again, this is not an in-depth tutorial, but just an introduction and a refresher. So to get things started, and actually before we go into that, I'm using VMware. And I'm going to be, for my example, I'm going to be using two of my VMware machines. One is Backtrack, which is a operating system is Ubuntu Linux, and I'm going to use my Windows XP operating system that I have here. So to get started with TCPDump, I just like to type TCPDump and hit enter. It may take a little while for something to register here, but see, we see some things coming through now. So just type in TCPDump, hitting enter. You'll see that it is picking up on a bunch of traffic, and what you may find is that it may take a little while for that to come through for your Ethernet, for your interface to pick that up. But we definitely see we have some activity going on here. So at this point, I just want to kind of stop that. I want to kind of stop that right there, and I'm going to go ahead and look at that and see that I have a lot going on there. If you look at that, you'll see a mixture of different things. You see different machines. You see some words listed there. Everything is not necessarily listed in port numbers. You may even see some host names going on here. So what I would like to do, me just typing TCPDump and hitting enter, it's a good sign. It lets me know that TCPDump is working, is installed properly. What I like to do now is refine my results. So one thing that we should all keep in mind is that TCPDump has the ability to sniff through different interfaces, meaning this is a great possibility that your system could have access or be connected to various networks, whether they be virtual networks or physical networks or wireless networks. So TCPDump has a interface that is connected to each one of those networks. So to kind of get a deeper look at that, you can type the command TCPDump space dash capital D and hit enter. And what this command does is it shows us all of the interfaces that TCPDump is looking at. So this is very, very important when you try to ensure that TCPDump is actually sniffing packets from the desired machine. Let me give you an example. I'm going to switch over here to my Windows XP system, and I'm going to go ahead and get an IP address. Type in the command ipconfig, and you see we have an IP address registering of 192.168.42.176, and just keep that IP address in mind, because it plays a part. It can play a part when it comes to specifying your Ethernet interface. So we have this IP address 192.168.42.176, and so I'm going to go back to my Backtrack machine. Now, how do I know which interface would connect me to that network of 192.168.42.176? Well, I can run a similar command. It's not going to be an IP config, but on Linux it's an IF config, and I'm going to hit enter, and you can see the results that I get. We have, of course, our local interface, but the one that rings a bell, well, not rings a bell, but that alerts me is this one here. It's 192.168.42.158. Now, if you look at that Windows IP address, those two are very, very similar. They're in the same network. The first three octets are exactly the same, with just the host being different. This one is 176. This is 158. So I can take a very good educated guess that these two are of the same network. So what's the next important information is that this is associated with this interface, ETH0. So if I want to ensure that TCPDump is using the correct interface, I'll go through this process, and I can tell it. You can specifically tell TCPDump to sniff from a particular interface. When I look at this, I see number 1, ETH0. It's my assumption that TCPDump by default may be using this one, but if you're not sure, you can always specify it. So what we're going to do, next command here, is we're going to refine our results a little bit. So we want to type TCPDump, and the way to specify the interface is -I for interface, space, and the name of the interface that you want TCPDump to use. So we can do that, and we can tell it, sniff traffic from a particular host. So let's say that the host, as we know, is Windows XP, so we're going to use that IP address. But let's say that I want to inspect what internet traffic is going on. Let's say that XP belongs to, my son or daughter or someone in the house, and I want to see what's going on their PC. Don't get any ideas, parents. Kids, if anything results from this, they didn't get it from me, but this is just something that you would do if you wanted to inspect the packets from that system. You could specify, you can tell TCPDump to use the protocol TCP, because that's what we would be picking up when we want to look at traffic from the internet. And then you just say in host. The host would be the IP of our Windows box, 176. So we're going to 192.168.42.176, and we're going to hit enter. And right now TCPDump is just waiting for something to happen. So let's go back to our Windows box, and let's open up Internet Explorer, and let's see if TCPDump decides to, oh yes it does, and let's hit Control C. That's what you can do to stop it. Now let's just look at this really quick. Right offhand, there's two things that I noticed. The first thing is I see a bunch of host names here, okay? I see all of these host names, and I see names for ports. So I see www instead of port 80, and I see host names instead of IP addresses. So if I want to refine this a bit more, I can tell TCPDump, don't show me any names, just give me all numbers, all port numbers, all IP addresses for my hosts. So and also the other thing that I noticed is that this thing went by so fast, even if I scroll up, I'm not able to see the beginning of this. So I want to refine, and I'm going to go back here and just close this up. But I want to refine this a little bit more, and this time I'm going to tell TCPDump to do the same thing that you just did, and that's easy to do by just clicking the up arrow key. And I'm going to refine this a little bit. Okay, I want it to only give me numbers. So you do a -NN right after the Ethernet. You can do that. That stands for, just give me numbers. No name resolution, just numbers for IP addresses and numbers for the ports. And the other thing that I want to specify is these were so many packets. I just want to see the first 10 packets. So you can do that by using the count, which is -C for count, space, and I'm just going to type 10 for the first 10 packets. And then I'm going to hit enter. And what's going to happen here is I'm going to open up Internet Explorer again. And this time, let's see what happens. Let's go back to our backtrack. Oh, what do we see? It captured. It did exactly as we asked it to. 10 packets captured, right? And I noticed something else here. All of our host names and port names are gone. We have all numbers, which is great. And this is very good. And there's another thing that I'm looking at that I noticed. If you guys remember from the first class, what is the first thing we see here? From looking at this packet, we know this represents the time here, and we see the IP address. This is the IP address of our Windows box. From this port, it initiated communication with this site, which is, as we know, because we pulled it up. But let's go back. It's MSN port 80, so we know that that's an internet. It's HTTP. And of importance, I want you all to notice this. Our machine sent a what? right, a send packet, and the site MSN responded back to our machine with the send, and it added this, an ACK, and then our machine responded back with an ACK. And if those of you who remember, that is that three-way handshake that we talked about, which is the happens to initialize communication. That's what TCP does. So that will wrap it up for now. It's just, like I said, a basic introduction, a review. You guys should just play around with that command. You can make some changes to it. You can definitely specify different things, like, you can change the count to different packets, different numbers of packets. You can definitely change that protocol, TCP. Let's say you want to change it to ICMP, and maybe ping the box that you are trying to sniff packets from and see if it picks up that traffic. Just get more familiar with that, play around with it. This is by no means extensive usage of TCPDump. I will be doing future tutorials to look at some more commands using TCPDump, and you can also do a search online. There's plenty of tutorials out there, but this was just a basic overview. So I will talk to you soon. Till then, be secure. Bye.